My mother gave me one key 3 days before she died. She didn't explain what it opened. She only held my hand and whispered, "Promise me you won't use it until you're ready to know everything." I thought she was confused because of the medication. She had been sick for months. But her eyes were completely clear. "Know what, Mom? The truth." I smiled sadly. "You can tell me now." She shook her head. "Not yet." Then she placed the key in my palm. It was old. Small. Made of brass. There was a number engraved on it. 17, I kept it in my pocket. She never spoke about it again. 3 days later, she was gone. Her funeral was quiet. My older brother, James, stood beside me. My aunt cried. Family members came and left. Everyone talked about how kind my mother had been. Nobody mentioned secrets. Nobody mentioned the key. Until 2 weeks later. I was cleaning out my mother's bedroom when I found a small envelope inside her dresser. My name was written on it. Ethan. Inside was a note. Only 4 words, "When you're ready." 17, I stared at the key. I suddenly remembered something from childhood. There had been a locked door in my mother's old house. I had never been allowed near it. Whenever I asked what was behind it, she always said, "Nothing important." But the door had always been locked. And now I realized something. The number on the key wasn't random. It was the number on that door. I called my brother. "James, do you remember the locked room at Mom's old house?" There was silence. Then he said, "Why are you asking?" "Because I found a key." Another silence. "Ethan, throw it away." I frowned. "Why?" "Just do it. You know what's behind that door." "No, you're lying." James became angry. "Mom is dead. Let the past stay buried." Then he hung up. That was when I knew I had to go. The old house was almost 2 hours outside the city. My mother had sold it years earlier. But I still remembered the road. I drove there the next morning. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling. The garden had disappeared. The windows were covered with dust. I knocked. An elderly man opened the door. I recognized him. Mr. Harris. He had lived next door when I was a child. "Ethan?" "Yes." He stared at me. "You look like your mother. Do you remember the locked room?" His face changed. "You came for it." I felt a chill. "You knew?" He stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "Your mother told me this day might come." "What did she tell you?" "That if you ever came looking for the room, I should let you in." "Why didn't she tell me herself?" He looked down. "She was afraid." "Of what?" "Of what you would discover." I felt my heartbeat increase. "Can I see the room?" He nodded. The door was at the end of the hallway. Exactly as I remembered it. A small wooden door. Number 17 painted above the handle. I took out the key. Mr. Harris stepped back. "Whatever is inside," he said, "remember that your mother loved you." I unlocked the door. It opened with a long creak. The room was almost empty. There was a desk. A metal cabinet. And a large wooden chest. Nothing else. I opened the cabinet. Inside were dozens of documents. Birth certificates. Medical records. Old photographs. Bank statements. I picked up the first photograph. It showed my mother. She was younger. Much younger. Standing beside a man I didn't recognize. They were outside a hospital. I turned the photograph over. A date was written on the back. March 12, 1998. My birth date. I froze. I picked up another photograph. My mother was holding a newborn baby. Me. But she wasn't alone. The same man stood beside her. On the back were 3 words, "He is yours." I didn't understand. I searched through the documents. Then I found something that made my hands shake. My original birth certificate. The father's name was different from the one I had grown up believing. I sat down. My entire childhood had been built around one man. My mother's husband. The man I called Dad. But according to this document, he wasn't my biological father. I kept searching. Then I found a letter. It was from my mother. "Ethan, if you're reading this, then I wasn't brave enough to tell you myself." I continued. "Your father didn't abandon us." I stopped. My father had supposedly died when I was 4. That's what Mom had always told me. She said he had been killed in an accident. The letter continued. "He was alive when you were born." My heart started pounding. "I lied because I believed it was the only way to protect you." I read the next line. "Your real father is not dead." I dropped the letter. I couldn't breathe. My mother had spent my entire life telling me my father was dead. But he was alive. I searched through the remaining documents. There was an address. An old one. And beneath it, my mother's handwriting, "He doesn't know you exist." I looked at the date. The address had been written only 6 months before my mother died. That meant she had known exactly where he was. She could have told me. She chose not to. I left the room and called my brother. He answered immediately. "Where are you?" "At the old house." His voice changed. "Ethan, I know." "Know what?" "Mom lied to us." Silence. "You knew." He didn't answer. "James, you knew about my father?" I knew there was something. "That's not what I asked." Finally, he whispered, "Yes." I felt betrayed. "How long?" "Since I was 18. Mom told you?" "She made me promise never to tell you." "Why?" "Because she said you weren't ready." "I've had 30 years. James began crying. "Ethan, listen to me." "No, you don't understand." "Then explain it." He took a breath. "Your father didn't leave because he wanted to." "Then why?" "I don't know everything." "But you know enough." "Yes." "What happened?" James was silent for several seconds. Then he said, "Mom didn't separate you from him." "Who did?" His voice dropped. "Dad." I froze. "My father?" "Yes." "He was the one who lied?" James answered, "He didn't just lie. He made sure your real father could never find you." I stared at the documents in my hands. Then I heard a car stop outside the house. I looked through the window. A black SUV had parked across the street. Someone stepped out. An older man. He looked toward the house. Then toward the locked room. My phone rang. "James." I answered. His first words were, "Ethan, get out of that house right now." I looked at the stranger outside. "Why?" James whispered, "Because that's your real father." I stared through the window. The older man stood beside the black SUV. He wasn't looking at the house anymore. He was looking directly at me. My phone was still against my ear. "James," I whispered, "what should I do?" "Don't talk to him." "Why?" "Because Mom spent 30 years trying to keep him away from you." I looked at the man again. "He's my father." "Yes." "Then why did Mom hide me from him?" James was silent. "Tell me the truth." Finally, he said, because he wasn't the man you think he is. The front door suddenly opened. Mr. Harris stepped inside. Ethan, you need to leave. Who is that man? Mr. Harris looked through the window. He came here before. When? About 10 years ago. What did he want? You. My heart stopped. He knew about me. Yes. Then why didn't he come looking for me? Mr. Harris looked down. Your mother made him a promise. What promise? That if he stayed away, she would never tell you what happened. I couldn't understand. What happened? Mr. Harris didn't answer. The man outside began walking toward the house. James shouted through the phone, Ethan, leave through the back door. I grabbed the documents. But before I could move, there was a knock. 3 slow knocks. Mr. Harris looked frightened. Don't open it. The knocking came again. Then the man's voice. I know you're inside. I looked at Mr. Harris. Who is he? He whispered, his name is David. My father. I walked toward the door. Ethan, don't. James shouted through the phone. I opened it. The man stood there. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, you have your mother's eyes. I couldn't speak. Are you my father? His eyes filled with tears. Yes. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to ask where he had been. Why he had left. Why he had never come back. Instead, I asked, why did you let Mom tell me you were dead? David looked down. She didn't. I froze. What? She told you I was dead because someone forced her to. Who? He looked toward the road. Your father. I shook my head. You mean the man I called Dad? David nodded. He wasn't your father. Then what was he? A dangerous man. I stepped back. What did he do? David took a breath. He couldn't have children. I stared at him. He believed your mother had been unfaithful. She wasn't. No, then why did he hate me? Because he knew you were mine. David looked at the old house. When you were born, he tried to take you away. What happened? Your mother fought him. Then? He threatened her. With what? Your life. My hands began shaking. David continued. He told her that if she ever contacted me, he would make you disappear. I looked at the letters. And you? I tried to find you. You couldn't. I did. When? Many times. Then why didn't you come? Because every time I got close, something happened. What? Police warnings. Threats. Anonymous letters. He pulled several folded papers from his jacket. I opened one. Stay away from the boy. Another, if you contact Ethan, he will pay for it. I looked at David. Who sent these? He didn't answer. Then I remembered something. The documents in the room. David looked surprised. You found them? Yes. Then you know. Know what? He pointed toward the metal cabinet. Look at the bank statements. I opened them. They were payments. Large payments. Made over several years. The recipient was a private security company. I looked at David. Who paid them? My mother's husband. Why? To watch you. I felt sick. All these years? Yes. Why? David looked at me. Because he was afraid you'd discover the truth. I remembered my childhood. The strange neighbors. The man who sometimes waited outside school. The phone calls Mom never answered in front of me. I had always thought they were coincidences. They weren't. Then I found another envelope. It had my mother's handwriting. For Ethan, only after David returns. I opened it. My mother's final words. Ethan, if David is standing beside you, then the truth has finally found you. I cried before I even finished reading. I wanted to tell you everything. But I was afraid that the truth would put you in danger. Your real father never abandoned you. He spent his life trying to find you. I was the one who kept him away. I looked at David. He was crying too. The letter continued, I know you may hate me for this. But every lie I told was meant to protect you. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Your father didn't know the most important secret. I stopped. David stepped closer. What secret? I read the final paragraph. The man you called Dad knew you were my son. But he didn't know that I had hidden proof of what he did. I looked at the documents. There was a second birth certificate. A recording. And photographs. Proof that my mother's husband had threatened her. Proof that he had hired people to watch me. Proof that he had spent years trying to erase David from our lives. I looked at David. Why didn't Mom go to the police? She was afraid they wouldn't believe her. Did she have enough evidence? She didn't. I held up the recording. Now she does. David stared at it. Then his expression changed. Ethan, what? Your mother told me something else. What? She said if you ever found the evidence, you shouldn't give it to the police immediately. Why? Because she believed someone inside the police department was working for him. I felt a chill. Who? I don't know. Suddenly, headlights appeared outside. A second car stopped behind David's SUV. David looked through the window. We need to go. Who is that? I don't know. Mr. Harris locked the door. There's a back entrance. We ran through the kitchen. Behind an old cabinet was a narrow door. It opened into the garden. We escaped through the back and drove away. For the next several weeks, David and I stayed together. We gave the evidence to a lawyer my mother had trusted. The investigation began quietly. Then the truth came out. The man I had called Dad had been using money and influence to keep David away from me. He had lied about my father's death. He had threatened my mother. He had paid people to watch me. And when my mother finally became seriously ill, she realized she might never have another chance to tell me the truth. That's why she gave me the key. Not to a room. Not to a box. But to my real identity. Months later, David and I sat together at my mother's grave. I placed the old brass key beside her photograph. I wish you had told me sooner, I whispered. David looked at me. She wanted to. I know. And she loved you. I smiled through my tears. I know that too. For 30 years, I believed my mother had taken the truth to her grave. She hadn't. She had hidden it. She had protected it. And when she knew her time was running out, she gave me the key. The key didn't open a door to the past. It opened the door to the family I never knew I had. I didn't get the childhood I should have had. I didn't get the answers when I needed them. But I finally got something my mother had wanted for me all along. The truth. And sometimes the truth arrives late. Sometimes it hurts. But when you spend your whole life believing you were abandoned, discovering that someone never stopped looking for you can change everything. I kept that brass key. Not because I needed it anymore. But because whenever I looked at it, I remembered my mother's final promise. She had told me, when you're ready, you'll understand why I did it.